It's the worst earthquake in Nepal since 1934. Over 1,000 people have been killed and reports are still coming in of the extent of the damage. We're getting you the latest updates from the quake zone. First, the headlines. Over 1,000 killed as an earthquake measuring 7.9 on the Richter scale hits Nepal. It's the biggest ever earthquake to hit the Himalayan country in 80 years. Hundreds of Nepalis prepare to sleep outdoors as more than 20 aftershocks rattle Nepal, 7 of them above the magnitude of 5.
Even the relief and the rescue teams have not been able to reach areas like this where we are standing right now. So it's the first, CNN IBN is the first news channel actually which has reached the ground zero, the epicenter of the earthquake.
CNN IBN reports from Nepal, the first Indian channel to reach the epicenter of the quake in Pokhara to bring you first-hand accounts of the devastation. The Himalayan earthquake's complete coverage from ground zero only on CNN IBN with Prabhakar Kumar, who's travelled from Bihar this afternoon. Reporting from Kathmandu is Shivani Chemjong, and we are going to get you those ground reports in just a moment. Massive damage to buildings in Kathmandu, among them the historic Dharhara Tower. 180 bodies recovered from the World Heritage Site. Others still feared trapped in the debris. The quake triggers massive avalanches on Mount Everest. 18 bodies of mountaineers recovered by the Indian Army's Everest team. Mountaineer Arjun Vajpayee speaks to CNN IBN from the Makalu Higher Base Camp.
Even after some time, we had a little bit of aftershocks coming in, and it didn't look so good. We still have a couple of climbers stuck up on the mountain.
And Kanakmani Dixit, senior journalist from Nepal, is joining us ahead on the show. We'll go to him in just a bit.
Television is not working. There are parts of Kathmandu where there is no electricity. Everybody will have to find some way of getting in touch. The embassy, of course, will do its utmost to be of help.
Back home, the Prime Minister holds an emergency meeting and orders immediate evacuation of Indians stranded in Nepal. Relief assistance with 10 NDRF teams sent to Kathmandu. Air India Indigo's SpiceJet will operate additional flights and take relief material free of cost. The Indian Railways dispatches 1 lakh bottles of water to Kathmandu. BSNL and Airtel chop call rates to Nepal for the next 3 days. In India, at least 36 dead, the majority in Bihar, 8 dead in Uttar Pradesh and 3 in West Bengal. The earthquake shakes most of the north and east part areas of the country. A massive earthquake measuring 7.9 on the Richter scale jolted Nepal this morning, leaving more than 1,000 people dead. A state of emergency has been declared. The maximum deaths have been reported in the Kathmandu Valley. The epicenter of the quake was around 80 kilometers from Nepal's capital. More than 20 aftershocks were felt in Nepal, and a majority of them were above the magnitude of 5. Extensive damage has been reported. Old buildings have been reduced to rubble, and images show wide cracks on the road as well as on buildings. A historic tower, which is a World Heritage Site, the Dharhara, collapsed in Kathmandu, and 180 bodies have already been recovered from the debris of that site. There's a fear that many people could still be trapped in the debris because it's a tourist destination and people had gone up to the observatory to get a view of Kathmandu city. India is sending NDRF personnel with relief materials. The first team has already reached Kathmandu. CNN IBN's Prabhakar Kumar is in fact the first Indian journalist to reach Nepal. He's travelled from Bihar this afternoon and he sent us his first report from the Karra village, which is on the outskirts of Pokhara.
It's been nearly a few hours since Nepal was hit by one of a bad earthquakes, and we have reached the Karra village of Nepal. It is very near the epicenter, where the epicenter of the earthquake is very near to Pokhara. And if I could show you the first sign of devastation, this was one of the houses where the family was staying, and in this particular house, one person lost their life. An old lady lost their life. In this particular village, which is very near to Pokhara, this village has around 150 houses, and most of the houses have suffered severe damage, and it's almost not livable. It's not possible actually to stay in these houses. It has completely crumbled down, and people here are staying out in the open now, willing to spend their nights out in the open. And even the relief and the rescue teams have not been able to reach areas like this where we are standing right now. So it's the first, CNN IBN is the first news channel actually which has reached the ground zero, the epicenter of the earthquake. ये कब कितने बजे की घटना है, क्या हुआ बताइए?
12 बजे की घटना।
क्या हुआ जब अर्थक्वेक आया? किस
वो अभी तो मालूम नहीं था वो कितना बजे से आया, कितना बजे आया। वो आने तो 12 बजे आया था।
आपके यहाँ तो फिर डेथ भी हो गई है?
उस टाइम में हम लोग नहीं था,
हम लोग
बाहर थे।
This gentleman probably is not actually able to put it in words, so we'll try and talk to the local villagers and find out actually what actually happened when the earthquake hit this area. ये बताइए, जब earthquake हुआ था, जब भूकंप आया था, तो आप लोग यहाँ पर थे, घर में भी लोग थे यहाँ, क्या हुआ था एग्जैक्टली अपने शब्द में बताइए।
हम लोग टीवी देख रहा था घर पर, ठीक 12, उसके बाद ठीक 12 बजे है ना, 12 बजे से अब भूकंप हल्का,
12 बजे नेपाली टाइम, हाँ
12 बजे चाहिँ हल्का घर हल्यो होइन। अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ हामी अब त्यसपछि हामी चाहिँ अब भूकम्प आयो भने हामी बच्चा हामी सबैजना तल ओर्ल्यौँ, हामी चौरतिर लागेको सबैजना, गाउँले सबैजनाहरू। अनि त्यसपछि यताउता सबैले घरसर भत्काएर चाहिँ यहाँ मान्छे एकजना बुढा चाहिँ लास भएर छ होइन।
आप if you could translate क्या ये क्या बोल रहे हैं?
दिन के 12 बजे नेपाली टाइम, दिन के 12 बजे यहाँ पर जो घटना हुआ है, इन लोग उस समय फर्स्ट बार अनुभव किए कि एकदम धीरे धीरे आया, फिर बाद में स्पीड हो गया, और उस स्पीड होने के बाद में एक घर जो टूटा, उसमें एक वृद्ध महिला का, वृद्ध पुरुष का मृत्यु हो गया।
If I could show to our viewers out there, the family, the aggrieved family, the grief-stricken family, they are still waiting there. There's no relief in the rescue team which has reached this area. Even the dead body of the person who died in this tragic incident is still lying, and they are actually waiting for the morning to break before they could actually go out and do the cremation. But for the local villagers, it's a very scary night, because the people here believe that the tremors may hit them again. And if I could show you how actually the villagers are planning to spend their night here. So we'll just take you to the local, to the open field out here, where people, hundreds of people, the entire family with kids, the women, the children, they're all here parked in the open field, and they will be spending their night out in the open. Remember, this is not a summer here for Nepal, so even if you are here, actually you have to wear a jacket and a blanket, because this is cold out here. And you can see this crowd, mainly of women, the young women, the ladies, the old elderly women. They're out, they're all here, even the small kids, if I could show you, they're spending their night out in the open. And this is the only way actually to fight the fear of earthquake hitting them again. So ये बताइए कि जब ये earthquake आया था तो क्या हुआ था उसमें बताइए। के बात है
के हुनु सबै घरहरु हल्लेको थियो, मान्छेहरु भागाभाग थियो। अनि फर्स्ट टाइम मैले पनि रियलाइज गर्यो कि अर्थक्वेक भने कस्तो हुन्छ रहेछ भनेर।
ये क्या बोल रही है?
पहले बार महसूस हुआ कि अर्थक्वेक क्या होता है, घर सब हिल रहा था, पहले बार महसूस हुआ कि अर्थक्वेक क्या होता है।
For our viewers, if I could show you once again, hundreds of ladies, hundreds of females with kids, small children here, they will be spending their night out in the open, because most of their houses are crumbled. Even if the house has not fallen, actually the cracks have developed, the severe cracks have developed, so they are too scared actually to go inside their houses and spend their night under their roof. So they'll all now be spending their night, the whole night, out in the open since the morning, till the morning breaks, and till the rescue and the relief team reaches to them. From near the epicenter in Nepal, Prabhakar Kumar for CNN IBN.
And Prabhakar also spoke with a family in Narayangarh that has been staying in a bus since this quake hit.
To give you a sense of how scared people here in Nepal are, we are right now boarding at one of the buses. This was a public transport. This bus is used to ferry kids to school, and today it has converted. It is doubling up as a house, as a home, and the owner of this bus has shifted his entire family here, and they will be spending their whole night sitting on these seats. So they are actually not going to their homes because they are not very sure what will happen during the night. So the entire family of the owner of this bus, they will be sitting here. Small kids here, you can see these small kids, they're school-going kids, and they'll also be spending the whole night here. तुम लोग बेटा क्या कर रहे हो बस में अभी?
डर लग रहा है बहुत।
डर लग रहा है? रात में यही सोओगे? And then we will talk to the people out here, the family members, and try and find out. ये बताइए क्या आप लोग बस में क्या कर रहे हैं रात में अभी?
रात भर हम यही बैठेंगे, हमको बहुत डर लग रहा है।
तो आप क्या पूरी रात इसी बस में सोएंगे?
हाँ।
तो आप अपने घरों को क्यों नहीं जा रहे?
हमको बहुत डर लगता है, बहुत डर लग रहा है।
ये जो हुआ था लगभग 12 बजे के आसपास हुआ था, बताइए क्या एक्सपीरियंस था, वो कैसा था? बिकॉज हमने भी जो झेला है ट्रमर, जो हमें जो हुआ था, शायद उसका झटका आपसे कम था। वो
हमसे बड़ी झटका देता है।
क्या क्या हुआ था बताइए, कोई समझा सकता? आप समझा सकते हैं मैडम?
हम सो रहे थे स्मॉल बेबी के साथ में, तब बेड बहुत जोर से हिला एंड मैं बेबी को लेके बाहर निकली और यहाँ पर आ गई। उस वक्त से मैं यहाँ से नहीं कहीं भी नहीं गई हूँ।
So what this lady is trying to tell us is that when this tremor happened, she along with the entire family members, they rushed to the open area and then they came in one of the buses. This is a family owned bus, and this is the extended family of the owner of the bus, and since then they have not gone back to their homes, and they will be spending the whole night here in open, sitting in this bus because it's cold out here, so it is actually safer to be inside the bus. And this bus is parked in an open area, and this entire family along with these small kids, they'll be spending this whole night here sitting on these chairs, and they'll be sleeping here as well. From near the epicenter in Nepal, Prabhakar Kumar.
We're joined this evening by senior journalist from Nepal, Mr. Kanakmani Dikshit. He's been tweeting about what he's been seeing since this morning. Mr. Dikshit, where were you when the earthquake struck, and what did you see around you?
Well, I was having lunch with family, but it was a very extended quake. It was like being on a ship on a very, very windy ocean side. It was not a shaking at all. It was a rolling kind of motion. It took I think it almost went on for a minute. And even as we were leaving the building, rushing out to the garden, taking elderly people out, it continued to shake that you could hardly stand. So it was by magnitude about 7.7, 7.9 Richter. But the devastation, I think, was caused because of the length of the quake, and then many aftershocks thereafter.
You've tweeted about the rural areas of Nepal having suffered the most, where mud houses have collapsed. Could you give us a sense of the reports that you have got from across the country?
Well, as you know, reports, it's still a happening situation, so we don't know enough. We know that the government says about 1,500 are already confirmed dead, and I would expect that this number will rise. Mainly, we have concerns about deaths in the cities and in the rural areas. In the rural areas, what we know is that buildings built with mud mortar seem to have come down in the eastern Nepal hills. Large areas where entire villages have come down. Probably the death toll will not be very high because these are low buildings and this is daytime and it is Saturday and the schools would have been off.
Yes.
Nevertheless, we are lucky on certain counts for it having been a Saturday late morning, 11:56 Nepal Standard Time, which would be about 15 minutes later in Indian Standard Time.
Yes.
But the other two aspects are, firstly, of course, about 1,500 dead already confirmed and many injured. That is a problem. The other is the heritage, the architectural heritage of Kathmandu Valley, which is world renowned, has also been devastated. The temples that are 1,100 years old, 1,200 years old, these are all temples that have come down. So that is another problem.
In fact, you've mentioned about watching the rescue efforts at the Dharhara site, and that's the structure, I believe, collapsed even during the 1934 earthquake.
Yes, in fact, my grandfather visited that the earlier site where this tower had collapsed in 1934, and today it was my turn to be on the mound where the tower used to be. It is a historical tower and a landmark of Kathmandu, and since it was opened about a decade ago, many Nepalis go there on holidays as tourists, and today you could see in the bodies being brought out of that rubble that there were many young children and women and men climbing the tower. It is not only have we lost a signature tower of Kathmandu Valley, but also that was, in a way, the epicenter of the deaths, because according to some estimates, about 160 people died just in that fall because they would have been in the tower and climbing up to it. It's about 200 feet high tower.
Do you fear there could be more people trapped in the debris?
No, that debris, I think there's no hope for people in that particular debris because there would probably be very little space for gaps in there. I think the debris has more or less been cleared already by a team in of the army and the police. What I worry is that there will be firstly many spinal injuries and other kind of orthopedic and cranial injuries among those who are brought in but are alive. But in the far corners of the country where it is difficult for the administration to reach, there may be, as we speak, you and I today, all over the hills of central and eastern Nepal, there will be a great disquiet and many people without a roof over their heads and, of course, many dead and maimed.
So many people in Kathmandu as well spending the night out on the streets today?
Oh, for sure, because the people of the Himalaya and the people of Kathmandu Valley know well the whole phenomenon of aftershocks. And so, while they may not know the science, which is, of course, that the so-called Indian geological plate is burrowing under the so-called Tibetan plate, and that occasionally in geological time, but in real time about every 60, 70, 80 years, there is a slippage between these two rock strata. That leads to great earthquakes. And this great earthquake was due, because the last one, as you mentioned, was 1934, which was called the Great Bihar earthquake, even though it also devastated Kathmandu Valley back in 1934. So, from great experience through historical time, the people of Kathmandu Valley know that earthquake can recur, aftershocks can happen. So people are out on the street. Luckily, this is after the winter and before the monsoon. So it is a little chilly, but people will be spending the nights outside. They will at least not have to suffer from hypothermia or from getting absolutely drenched in the rain. But yes, what I could tell you is that you can look at today's tragedy in two ways. On the one hand, we had been told to expect, and we had been expecting that there would be many more deaths in the tens of thousands when a big earthquake hit. Fortunately and thankfully, that has not happened, and we are also rather pleasantly intrigued that the cement and concrete pillar buildings that has overtaken Kathmandu and have become such an eyesore in relation to the traditional homes of Kathmandu, they have not come down. And so the reason we don't have tens of thousands of deaths is, in the end, the credit probably should be given to cement and concrete. But what has fallen is the old, in the villages, the villagers with the houses that are made of mud mortar, and the historical sites of Kathmandu Valley, which are all monuments that are very well known in India and around the world. The Tyr
Absolutely.
temple, the Shikhara temple, all these temples, many of them have come down because they are made of mud mortar and bricks and wood and tile.
You are looking at the small mercies, I can see. What can you tell us about the relief and rescue operations at this point? What is it that Nepal needs the most at the moment?
Well, to begin with, what we saw was the speed with which local communities reacted, because I do not know of the hills, but within Kathmandu Valley, the youth clubs were immediately active to secure buildings, to lead women and children out into the open, etc. Then there is the Nepal police, the armed police, and the army. They were quite active, but I would say that the citizens were active even beforehand. And now we also have not only promise of support, but already delivery of support from India, which has acted very promptly, and 2 aircraft, heavy lift aircraft, have already landed with medicines, drugs, and sniffer dogs. And from what I know, 2 more aircraft will be landing soon in the Tribhuvan International Airport, which fortunately is functional, because one of the fears we had was that our airstrip, which is built on a sandbank, that may also collapse. So yes, there has been local effort, there has been national effort, and also India has come forward very quickly within a few hours of the devastation to send in a rescue team from its own national disaster preparedness organization.
Are the hospitals in Kathmandu full to capacity now? Is there a crisis on that front?
There are now many hospitals, some private, some government. Some of them have, of course, all because of the fear of aftershock, patients have been moved outdoors in some of the older hospitals where there is fear of the building collapse. In the meantime, there are open-air morgues where many bodies have been put out because they, of course, could not be saved. The hospitals, from what we gather, are full up. And also we heard from a particular private hospital that they were running out of drugs. But what I can tell you is that really the story, even till an hour ago, there were aftershocks. And we don't yet know the full extent of what has happened to Nepal. I would suggest to you that the older parts of Kathmandu Valley, which has 3 towns, Patan, Bhaktapur, and Kathmandu itself, and some other smaller towns, the older buildings seem to have caught it very badly, and within Kathmandu Valley already 800-900 deaths. Then all around the country, especially in east and central Nepal hills, the villages have lost all standing houses before the concrete and cement era. And finally, I would say that in the long term, the destruction of the heritage of Kathmandu Valley is also going to be of great concern, because in 1934, Juddha Samsher was the Prime Minister of the day, the Rana Prime Minister and the ruler, and he had brought to bear the government exchequer to rebuild the devastated temples and parties and the powers, as we call them. But now we have to, I believe, the government has to get its act together, the citizenry have to get together after the first immediate response of rescue is over, to try and revive the fantastic heritage, architectural heritage that indeed is something that our ancestors have given us.
Some concerns that you're raising there, sir. Finally, any word about the mountaineers, because we believe it's the spring trekking and climbing season, and there were several foreign tourists in Nepal.
Oh yes, this is the mountaineering season, and there are mountains all around the Nepali Himalayan rimland, including close to the epicenter, which is in central Nepal. Nearby are the mountain chains of Annapurna, Manasalu, Himalchuli, Ganesh Himal. There will be mountaineers all over. And of course, the biggest attraction is Mount Everest, where there are mountaineers on top, on the way up. This is the time when they are preparing to go up Camp 1, Camp 2. The word is, it's not yet, for me, I haven't been able to confirm it myself, but there seem to have been deaths deaths, multiple deaths by avalanches on Mount Everest, but we yet do not know what has happened in other mountains of Nepal. These are mountaineers going up the hills, up the mountains.
Mr. Kanakmani Dixit, thanks very much for speaking to CNN IBN, getting us the latest information and a sense of what it was like to feel the first jolts. This was when he was having lunch, as he was pointing out. Which are the areas that are the worst affected? The first quake, as he was pointing out, was just before noon. My colleague Karma Paljor is here to take us through what exactly happened.
Right, Ananya, thanks for that. Let's look at the intensity map. If you look at this map provided to us by the US geological community, what we have is the epicenter. This is the epicenter. Now, if you look at the intensity, the red one, X plus being the extreme in intensity, 1X violent, as it turns slightly yellow, that's severe, very strong and strong. So we can look at the color coding. The entire color coding is here. So this was the epicenter. Now next to it, Kathmandu, violent. If we see, as far as the intensity is concerned, is that Bharatpur, the intensity has been the highest. The city saw maximum damage. Also, if we look at Pokhara, the intensity is very strong. But still, Pokhara is one city which got away. But Kathmandu being the city which is being hit by a violent shake. Apart from that, if you look at these little dots across India, Kanpur, Shahjahanpur, Bareilly, all these areas have got light to moderate intensity. Muzaffarnagar, Patna, all these cities being strong to moderate, which means the impact has been more. Also, if you look towards the east, Shiliguri bearing the brunt, one person died. That's the initial report coming in. So there, the intensity has been strong. Rest of the areas, if we look at Sikkim, if you look at Assam, or down here, the intensity has been light to moderate, so very little impact. But wherever these colors change to a darker shade of yellow, a yellow or a red, that is where maximum damage has occurred. Let's also take a look at all the tweets that have come in for Nepal. Some writing in saying, it's a place I grew up in, a land of enigmatic beauty, peace and unity, now in rubbles, breaks my heart, prayers for every soul. So the tweets that we are seeing is for prayer to save India and Nepal. Also interesting, in the Indian Premier League, CSK Kings 11 Punjab offered tributes to the victims of the earthquake at the start of the match. Not just in India, people from across the world writing in saying, Nepal, you are in our prayers, sending thoughts to all those affected by the earthquake and all those who are currently in Everest. Now, Everest has been one area which has been a cause of worry ever since that one tweet came in from base camp saying that a number of avalanches have been triggered by that. Also, let's take a look at some of the images now. This was what the Darbar Square, the ancient site of coronation of most of the Nepal kings, looked like in all its glory, and now this has what it has been reduced to, a UNESCO World Heritage Site reduced to rubble, certainly breaking many hearts. This glory you'll perhaps never see. Series of pictures which show the glory before and what has happened now. So, and also the defining image as far as this earthquake is concerned is about the rescue workers who've helped save many people across in this hour of need. People, of course, neighbors, were the first responders. They came in, provided the initial help. Now, the Nepalese army, of course, India, sending its NDRF teams.
Karma, thanks very much. The quake also triggered avalanches, as Karma was pointing out, at the Everest base camp. 18 mountaineers are dead. The Indian Army's Everest expedition team is safe. They are the ones who recovered the bodies. We spoke to one of the mountaineers, Arjun Vajpayee, in fact, who sent us this video from the Makalu base camp.
Disturbance here due to the earthquake which was reported in Nepal. All along that base now it's covered into clouds. We had quite a few big avalanches coming down of those phases. From here we had quite a bit of rockfall. Most of our team is okay. We're doing well. Some of our team members just moved up today towards Camp 1 and Camp 2. We still do not have any report from them. We're trying to get in touch with them. Some people have gone up towards Camp 1. We should hear from them soon. I hope all is well up there.
This afternoon, CNN IBN also connected Arjun to his mother.
The situation right now is we do not know much about what has actually happened on the mountain. At the ABC, we were setting up a communications tent, and things seemed to start moving below our feet. As soon as we started rushing out, there was a lot of ice and rock coming down the faces of Makalu. Even after some time, we had a little bit of aftershocks coming in, and it didn't look so good. We still have a couple of climbers stuck up on the mountain, a couple of Slovenian climbers, a couple of some more Sherpas. We're waiting for reports to come in, but nothing certain till yet. There for surely is a lot of damage which has been done up on the mountain.
I just want to tell him that he needs to be very careful of what he plans ahead. The mountain is always going to be there. All I say is if it's not too good, you must come back.
Don't worry, Mom. I'm going to keep my ears and eyes open, and I'm going to take it nice and easy up here.
Yeah, you need to take care of what Mother Nature is speaking to you, so you please be careful.
And CNN IBN will help you connect with your loved ones stranded in Nepal in case you can't reach them. Do call us on this number and we'll take your message right across to the authorities. Joining us this evening for more on the devastation in Nepal, India's response and the devastation in India itself. Let's not forget that 36 people are dead in India. We're joined by Dr. Anjali Quatra. She's the chairperson of Philanthrope, a disaster management expert. She's with us in our studios. Badsha Sen, senior journalist, is joining us from the national capital, and Professor T.G. Sitaram from the Indian Institute of Science, an earthquake expert, is with us from Bangalore. The Director General of the Institute of Seismological Research from Ahmedabad, Dr. B.K. Rastogi, joins us as well. Good evening to all of you. Before we get to you, we are joined on the phone line by Miss Sapna. She's the manager of the Under-14 Indian women's football team, and they are stranded in a hotel in Kathmandu. Sapna, how many of you are stranded?
Yes. Hello.
Yes,
hello.
we can. Sapna, hi,
hello.
we can hear you. Sapna,
hello.
can you hear us?
Yeah, tell me.
How many of you are there,
hello.
Sapna, from the Indian team?
Yes, see. We are the square of 23, and other teams like Iran and Bangladesh and Nepal are also stuck with us here.
How many of you then from the Indian contingent, Sapna?
23
from the Indian contingent. Which hotel are you in? Have you got in touch with the Indian embassy?
Yeah, but actually no, roads are blocked because of building collapse, and there is no light outside. It is fully dark. So it is, and the airport is 1.5 hours away from here, right?
Yes.
So it is also a risk going this time to airport. So the people are suggesting us to be here only and just wait and we are waiting.
So there is complete darkness because we understand there's no electricity. The airport is far away.
No electricity.
Where were you when the earthquake struck?
We were at the stadium, main stadium. We had match today, but we were at the changing room, and suddenly we heard the sound, bad sound. We came out running in the stadium, and it continued like 5.5 hours. And still the tremors are on.
You are right now in a hotel, Sapna. You're saying there are other teams as well with you? Teams from other countries?
Yeah, teams from other countries.
How soon can you leave Nepal? Is there any word from the Indian embassy? Because we've heard from the External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, who says the first batch of Indians, 250 Indians, will be evacuated tonight itself.
See, we don't know because right now I can't say anything because as I told you earlier also, it is quite dark outside and we cannot go airport because roads are blocked because of building collapse and all. So it is again a risk going to airport. So we are waiting for the morning.
Sapna, any word of advice that you've been given for tonight, given that there have been so many aftershocks itself?
No advice. Just I'll just ask everyone to pray for us because still we are in danger. Tremors are on. Just pray for the Indian team. They are small kids. Pray for them.
Of course, Sapna, our thoughts and prayers with you. The under-14 football team from India in Kathmandu stranded in their hotel. There's no electricity. They can't go out of the hotel. There are teams from other countries like Iran as well, as Sapna is pointing out. Sapna, thanks very much for joining us this evening. This remains our top focus here on CNN IBN. Prabhakar Kumar is the first Indian journalist who's reached Nepal and is close to the epicenter in Pokhara.
We'll be feeling earthquake here across North India. The location is Pokhara, between Pokhara and Kathmandu.
Barely few hours have passed since Nepal was hit by one of a bad earthquake, and we have reached the epicenter finally. We are in the Karra village of Nepal.
Our panel this evening joining us on this big news that we've been tracking very closely. Dr. Anjali Kwatra is with us here in the studio, and she's a chairperson of philanthropy and a disaster management expert. What's the word of advice you would give to Sapna and the under-14 team that's there? These are all children. What should they do for tonight?
The first thing I want to tell is that the severity of any earthquake, the preliminary assessment, is always an underestimate. So, because it is, based on data from online seismological instruments, once the field data comes in, then it could be revised. It could be even declared to be a higher magnitude earthquake. And secondly, then the aftershocks that can happen. The fear can be there up to a week, and that can lead to landslides, snow avalanches, and moreover the damaged buildings. They simply should not be used, because any kind of damage that has happened can lead to building collapse even later on. So all the people who are there, they have to be in relief shelters or in such safer places. That's the most important thing to do. And also, as another important thing is that it is the community that has to be an efficient responders, because worldwide experience has shown that the most important response, especially even for search and rescue, also comes from the local community. And some kind of training and basic skills with them is such a help. And Kathmandu, scientifically it was known that such kind of an earthquake can happen. The three most prone to earthquake losses are Istanbul, Kathmandu and Delhi. That's the scientific prediction. So for their community to have always been prepared in terms of committees being formed, or as I said, training and skills, and even equipments, because in such a scenario you need earth moving equipments, you need search and rescue equipments, and as much of a medical rescue is important in terms of mobile.
And the reports that we're getting from Nepal indicate that the locals are the ones who are the first to respond and are doing their level best. Let's bring in Dr. B.K. Rastogi, sir. As Anjali Kwatra here is pointing out, this was something that was expected. But can you ever be prepared for an earthquake?
Yeah, preparation is you have to build earthquake-resistant houses. This is a wake-up call for India also. In Nepal, yes, the 1934, 80 years back, similar or a little stronger earthquake was there. And at that place, 1988 also there was some earthquake, 6.8 magnitude. And that also caused damage in Kathmandu, in Bhaktapur and many places like that. And this is wake-up call for India also, because in India also many sectors of Himalaya, the most prone sectors which are now identified are Uttarakhand in central Himalaya, and in Assam, eastern Himalaya, and also the danger is there in Punjab Himalaya, or Himachal Himalaya, Kashmir Himalaya. So any sector which is say 100 kilometer length, every 200 years it can give a 8 magnitude earthquake, and one is overdue in Himalaya. And I mean, how you can prepare for earthquake is only build houses which are
earthquake safe. And as Nepal senior
for
journalist
Himalayan
Kanakmani
earthquake,
Dixit was pointing out
the
here,
damage-
not many buildings in Kathmandu have collapsed. Not many new buildings in Kathmandu have collapsed. There are some like the Dharara Tower which has collapsed, but he says these are the small mercies which have saved a lot of people, and the fact that today was a Saturday, the schools were closed and the earthquake struck around noon, so it was during daytime that the earthquake struck and gave people some time to look around and respond. Professor T.G. Sitaram, we are told that this quake was a shallow quake in depth. What does that mean? We are told that this would mean that the quake was more destructive.
Yes. Yes, this is an earthquake which has happened at a depth of about 10 to 15 kilometers. And the shallow earthquakes are actually more devastating, and because the waves can travel very easily and quickly to these surrounding buildings and reaches these structures. So there could be a devastating damage. I think we have not yet seen the entire part of the damaged areas. As you yourself are highlighting, very few people have reached the epicentral area, which is in the northwest of Kathmandu. I think we need to wait till tomorrow morning when the relief efforts are going to reach those areas, and then we would actually see the reality what is on the ground. How many buildings have collapsed, how much of damage has occurred, and how many people have been killed. And this is being a shallow earthquake of a very large magnitude of 7.9, and happened in an area where I think people have forgotten about earthquakes, because large earthquakes, large earthquakes have happened in the last 100 years. The latest one was 1934.
Yes, that was 80 years ago.
1905 was the Kangra. Yeah, exactly. 1905 was Kangra earthquake, and then 1934 was Bihar earthquake, and only in 2005 Kashmir earthquake came in, but it was too far away from this region. So people doesn't know how to even build in these areas. Maybe we should wait and see how many damaged buildings are there, and I think we need to reach out to those areas. That's what is most important, because
in fact,
we are now
it's only
looking at
by
only
tomorrow
Kathmandu
morning
Valley.
that a clearer picture is going to emerge. It's already night time, and it's getting very difficult to see if there may be more people trapped in the debris across Nepal. Bacha Sen, the UNDP says that nearly 40% of Nepal has been affected by the earthquake and the aftershocks. Major relief efforts are required in the country. What would you say about India's response, the way that India has already responded? The first NDRF team has already reached Kathmandu.
Well, I would say that India's response has been quick, fast, efficient, and I think as within the limited space of time that they did it, that India did it, they've done it rather well. I think they've reached stuff to Kathmandu. Now, as your panelists have been mentioning, because of the earthquake's effect all around the area, we need to know how soon stuff can reach other parts of Nepal. For instance, your correspondent in Pokhara. Pokhara is a place which could be reached again by land from India, and again the relief material will be needed not just in Pokhara but in other areas like in and around Lanjung and places like that. But as far as the Indian response is concerned, to be very specific, Indian response has been swift, efficient, and as complete as is possible up to now.
Yes, in fact, CNN IBN's Shubhajit Sengupta has been at the Hindon Air Base, from where the Indian Air Force planes are taking off for Nepal.
Here at the Hindon Air Base, where you can see over 200 NDRF personnel who are ready to board the aircraft and leave for Nepal. Leading the team is Commandant P.K. Srivastav. Let's speak to him. Sir, can you give us a detailed view of what would be your operation like? What is your preparation right now?
See, our teams are trained in carrying out search and rescue operations, and in the past also our teams have carried out these kind of rescue operations. So all our team members, they are fully trained in search and rescue methods, and in addition to search and rescue, we are also having doctors and paramedics with medicines with us, and we are carrying dogs also with us, the search dogs.
So what kind of difficulties do you expect as you go there today?
See, as you know, Nepal is a mountainous country, and in this kind of massive earthquake, there are likelihood of collapse buildings, multi-story buildings and big buildings which can be collapsed, and people may be trapped inside. So searching the trapped victims and evacuating them will be a challenge, but we are confident with our training and equipment we will do it.
Let's not forget that India too has been left shaken by this devastating earthquake. At least 36 people have died in India, the majority of them in Bihar. About 25 deaths in Bihar itself, and the chairman of the Bihar State Disaster Management was pointing out that most of the deaths happened due to a stampede because people panicked. There are 8 deaths in Uttar Pradesh, there are 3 in West Bengal. The Prime Minister, as we had said earlier, had held a high-level meeting to take stock of the situation. The quake and the aftershocks were felt right across the north and east of India. 4 NDRF teams are in Bihar, 1 NDRF team is in Uttar Pradesh.
Devastating earthquake has hit Nepal and repercussions are being felt in India also. What are the initial reports that you have got? What is the worst affected area?
See, the major affected portion is the northern part of Bihar, which is closer to the epicenter in Pokhara in central Nepal. And besides that, the eastern Uttar Pradesh and northern part of West Bengal is also affected.
So who is coordinating the relief and rescue operations in India, and are you in touch with state government agencies?
Home Ministry being the nodal ministry, we are looking into it, and the Home Secretary is directly related with the emergency unit we have in the Home Ministry, so that everything is updated hourly.
In India too, we felt the tremors, we felt the aftershocks as well. So a question about the do's and don'ts to you, Anjali Quatra. What happens when you're living in a high-rise, in a multi-story? There are elderly people with you, you're not supposed to take the lift. What are the do's and don'ts?
There are lots of don'ts also, and they are the ones that are done. That is, people start running out of the building immediately when they feel the tremors. That's the wrongest thing to do, because one can't actually, earthquake tremors can last only a few seconds, and one can't even reach one's door. So to be in the stairs could be the riskiest part in the building, and even if one has reached out, it could be again the maximum casualties happen there, because a lot of things tumble down and fall on the heads. It could be flower pots, it could be overhead water tanks, even window panes, the glass panes fall down and they hurt the people who are just immediately outside the building. So the first thing to do is to protect your body, and that not by running out, but by getting under some sturdy piece of furniture, so that if there are things falling, it could be debris, or it could be equipments in the house. It could be some heavy piece of furniture falling. So one is protected, the head especially and the spine is protected under a sturdy piece of furniture. That's the first thing to do. And then of course, once the tremors are over, how to exit from the building is again very important to understand. Otherwise, there again there could be casualties. So what a person didn't die because of the immediate earthquake could die later. That is, one needs sturdy shoes to vacate the building, because there could be some pipes that could have burst, electric pipe line, or gas pipe. Fires often happen after earthquakes, and even water pipes can burst. So water and the electrical line combination, electric shocks are very common, and so one has to walk on sturdy shoes, and there could be broken glass pieces which can hurt and cause injuries. And of course there could be power disruption. That is, maybe there's no visibility, especially if the earthquake happens at night. That time we need some kind of source of light. Electric torches and all should be available at home. And of course one has to be very sure the kind of injuries your fellow people in the house or in the building have received. One should be able to help them then. Once sure of one's own welfare, it's very important to be handling the victims properly, because the injuries that happen are usually fractures. And fractures are very dangerous injuries, because if they are mishandled, that is, as in if the bone is moved further, it can further cut the nerves and blood vessels that lie along with, especially in the long bones. So handling the victim properly is very important.
All right, so
immobilizing the victim.
So you're saying there are several precautions to take. Don't panic, be calm, and don't try to rush out of your home. Look for a safe spot. I think that's the word of advice that's coming in. Dr. Rastogi, is there a fear that there could be more aftershocks?
Yes. Aftershocks may be there for 1 or 2 days. They are stronger, and then the intensity or magnitude starts coming down, And then the aftershocks, actually, they can continue for months also. But normally intensity is reduced after 1 or 2 days. 1 or 2 days they are stronger, so one has to be really careful. One should live outside the house for 1 or 2 days at least. They should not enter the houses. Even when there is no aftershock, people try to re-enter the houses for taking out the valuables or anything. So it is better to go maybe after 1 or 2 days, not immediately. Yes.
Okay, Professor Sitaram, this is a particularly vulnerable area is what we are pointing out. So this was in some ways anticipated that there could be a major quake because the last one here was in 1934.
That's very true. As I told you, this is a plate boundary and is also a very dissipating boundary. There is a large number of sutures and faults cutting across. So the Himalayan foothills is almost a 200-kilometer wide stretch. So there could be large number of aftershocks. And as Dr. Rastogi was highlighting, the major quakes, aftershocks would come maybe in 2-3 days. Till that time, people have to be careful. But please remember, earthquakes don't kill people, it is the buildings. So we need to be very careful about the buildings. That means the damaged buildings, people should not re-enter them, at least in the last another 2-3 days. After that, aftershocks slowly die out, but there will be some activity because this is on a plate boundary. As again I'm repeating, because it's a plate boundary where thrust faulting, the Indian plate is going subducting below the Eurasian plate, where there is a lot of the slip could have been a larger area here. That's why we could see a magnitude of 7.9. So we have to wait and watch for at least another 3 days. People have to be careful before entering to the building, and these are some of the precautions they should take. And I somehow feel that this is a lesson for India also, because there is a large effects of the areas of India also is more vulnerable in this area, as Dr. Rastogi was highlighting in Uttarakhand and other areas. So people, we have to actually enforce the building bylaws and build the newer buildings in a proper way as per the codal provisions, and also the older buildings, at least the hospitals and schools, has to be retrofitted for the magnitude of the upgraded earthquake magnitude based on our probabilistic hazard map, which has been developed by NDMA, and also the Bureau of Indian Standards is adopting that soon. So these are the precautions one has to take.
You're pointing out that there are lessons for India in this earthquake that's epicentered in Nepal. Badsha Sen, let's talk about Bihar, because Bihar is already reeling under those storms, and now comes this earthquake. The death toll in Bihar itself is at 25. What does it mean for the state at this point?
Well, it means obviously a lot of misery. Again, there'll be, and this, I might point out to you that this is as far as Bihar is concerned, election year. So I do not know how that will affect the state assembly elections later this year. Not very far from now. There again, we have to wait and watch the extent of the devastation, because again in Bihar there are large parts of Bihar which are relatively isolated and densely populated. Unlike Nepal, the areas in Nepal which are outside of these cities tend to be sparsely populated, whereas in Bihar even villages are very densely populated and there are a lot of small towns. So we need to know how many casualties there are, and I guess the big thing that India has is that it does have a thing like the National Disaster Relief Force. There's a sort of, each state has its own disaster relief capabilities. I think at least more relief and rescue will be possible in a place like Bihar. Only you need to know when and where these casualties are.
Badsha Sen, Professor Sitaram, Anjali Quatra and Dr. Rastogi, thanks to all of you for joining us here on CNN IBN with your expert viewpoints. This remains our top focus here on CNN IBN. We're getting you those ground reports with our correspondent Prabhakar Kumar, who's already reached Nepal. Let's just tell you that there's some news coming in, and this is unfortunate. 2 Indians are among the people who've died in Nepal. That's the news that's just coming in.
will be feeling earthquake here across North India. The location is Pokhara, between Pokhara and Kathmandu.
Barely few hours have passed since Nepal was hit by one of a bad earthquake, and we have reached the epicenter finally. We are in the Karra village of Nepal.